Welcome to Whispered Women's Stories. Today's tale begins with a woman who walked into marriage with love and walked out carrying nothing but betrayal, debt, and a fire that would rebuild her entire life. When Olivia discovered her husband and mother-in-law treated her family like a personal ATM, she didn't break, she struck back. What happens when the soft, obedient daughter-in-law stops being soft? Stay with me, because this transformation is deliciously powerful.
A lavish wedding was underway, and the bride, Olivia Carter, wore a flawless smile. Surrounded by the blessings of friends and family, she held onto the groom, Benjamin Ford's arm, looking blissfully happy. Benjamin was handsome, thoughtful, and the kind of perfect bachelor everyone envied. His mother, Margaret Ford, was dressed in an expensive designer Cheongsam-style dress, glamorous and elegant, graciously accepting compliments from the guests. From the outside, anyone would say Olivia had married up, that this was a stroke of pure luck for her. But no one knew that just a week before the wedding, during a dinner at the Fords' home, Olivia had signed a thick prenuptial agreement, dozens of pages long. The document listed every property, stock, and fund owned by the Ford family, worth tens of millions of dollars. And on the final page, in black and white, it stated clearly, all the above assets are premarital property of the Ford family and have nothing to do with Olivia. Faced with this nearly insulting agreement, Olivia didn't argue or raise her voice. She simply read every clause calmly, then, under the satisfied gazes of Benjamin and Margaret, signed her name. She knew this marriage had never been some fairy tale. It was a game from the start, a cold, naked game of power, and she accepted their rules quietly, because she knew the real game was only just beginning. Vero 1. Rewind to 1 week before the wedding. Margaret invited Olivia and Benjamin out for dinner, saying they should go over some wedding details. At first, the atmosphere at the table was pleasant. Margaret fussed over Olivia, warm and attentive, almost more affectionate than a mother. But halfway through the meal, Margaret reached into her pricey leather handbag and pulled out a thick stack of documents. Olivia, she said with a gentle smile, as if discussing the weather, Benjamin's father and I have worked hard our whole lives. Building this family business hasn't been easy. These days, people can be complicated. For Benjamin's sake, and for the good of our family, we've decided to formalize the ownership of our assets. She slid the stack of papers toward Olivia. Her smile stayed soft, but the sharp calculation and guardedness in her eyes were impossible to miss. You're a good girl, sensible. I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming from, sweetheart. In that moment, Olivia's heart sank. Beside her, Benjamin kept his head down, pretending to be very focused on his soup, not saying a single word. Olivia didn't look at him. She already knew she couldn't count on him. She picked up the documents and flipped through them page by page. 4 residential properties in downtown areas, 2 commercial units, shares in the Ford family company, and a pile of investment products she didn't even recognize. Each one stated clearly that these assets belonged jointly to Margaret and her husband, would someday be inherited by Benjamin alone, and had absolutely nothing to do with Olivia, not even a single dollar. Mom, why are you doing this? Benjamin finally couldn't hold back and muttered a weak protest, but his voice was so soft it was almost like he didn't really mean it. Be quiet, Margaret snapped, shooting him a glare. I'm doing this for your own good. I don't want you getting taken advantage of someday. Olivia, sweetheart, it's not that I don't trust you. It's just standard procedure. This way, there's no gossip in the future. For everyone's good? Olivia laughed silently to herself. This was a keep the daughter-in-law away from the assets agreement, treating her like some scheming outsider. She and Benjamin had been together for 3 years. He had always been gentle, thoughtful, generous even. She truly believed she had found real love. But now she realized that in Margaret's eyes, the real decision-maker of the Ford family, she was nothing but an outsider, a woman who might one day come for the Ford family's money. Olivia lifted her head and looked at Margaret's carefully maintained face. She didn't show anger or tears. Instead, she smiled faintly. I understand, ma'am. You and your husband worked hard for what you have. It's natural to want to protect your property. She picked up the pen on the table and signed Olivia at the end of the document in one clean motion. Margaret clearly didn't expect her to sign so easily. She froze for a moment, then her smile became genuinely pleased. "Oh, I knew you were a sensible girl. Benjamin is lucky to have you." Benjamin let out a sigh of relief and hurried to put food on Olivia's plate. "Liv, you're amazing. I knew you'd understand." Olivia lowered her head and ate, but the delicacies tasted like sawdust. She knew the moment she signed her name she would never be considered one of them, but that was fine. She had never planned to rely on them anyway. What she didn't expect was that after 3 years of loving Benjamin, he couldn't even stand up for her. Not even once. 02. After the wedding buzz faded, real married life began. And Olivia quickly realized that the prenuptial agreement was more than just a document. It was the perfect weapon Margaret used to keep her in check. The apartment they lived in after the wedding belonged to Benjamin, an upscale luxury unit. But only a few days after Olivia moved in, Margaret used the excuse of helping you young people manage things to take the spare key and began showing up whenever she wanted, without warning. "Olivia, sweetheart, how did you mop this floor? There's dust in the corners." Benjamin has been neat and tidy since he was little. As his girl, you need to pay more attention. Margaret wore white gloves, running a finger along the doorframe with a deep frown. "Olivia, how could you wash Benjamin's dress shirts in the machine? These use premium fabrics. You should hand wash them. Or do you only care about protecting your hands and not his clothes? Olivia, why did you only make 3 dishes for dinner? In the Ford family, we don't do things so basic. Or is it because you didn't bring a dowry, so you think it's fine to just enjoy our meals for free?" Olivia heard remarks like this several times a day. Margaret constantly reminded her, directly or indirectly, that being allowed through the Ford family's door was already a blessing for her, and she should be grateful and serve mother and son well. Olivia did push back once. Margaret was criticizing her cooking again, saying the food was too salty. Olivia finally snapped back. "Mom, Benjamin said the seasoning is perfect today." Margaret slammed her chopsticks down. "Olivia, what kind of attitude is that? I'm your mother-in-law. If I say it's salty, then it's salty. Don't think that just because you married in, you suddenly grew a backbone. Don't forget, you signed the agreement. You shouldn't even dream of touching a single cent from our family." Olivia was shaking with anger. She turned to Benjamin, hoping he'd say something fair. But Benjamin tugged at her sleeve with an embarrassed expression. "Liv, just let it go. My mom has a sharp tongue but a soft heart. She just wants what's best for us." "For us?" Olivia felt something inside her shatter. "She accuses me of chasing your family's money right in front of me. She treats me like I'm here to rob you. And that's for us? Come on, Liv. My mom's older. She worked her whole life. It's normal for her to be controlling. Just bear with her a little, okay? We're a family now." "A family?" Olivia laughed silently. "You two are the family. I'm just the outsider who signed a contract." After that day, Olivia stopped arguing. Whenever Margaret said something, Olivia simply nodded and let it pass from one ear out the other. She poured all her frustration into work. She worked at a bank, usually an easy job, but she began working overtime, studying for certifications, and pushing her performance. Every month, aside from basic living costs, she didn't touch a single extra dollar. Everything went straight into a private account. Benjamin and Margaret looked down on her small salary, which turned into her shield. They never suspected that the quiet daughter-in-law they thought they had under control was quietly building her own strength, waiting for the right moment. Walkering Thor's story Gleichment. Olivia endured life in the Ford household for 2 long years. In that time, she learned every nuance of Margaret's personality and fully understood Benjamin's weakness. She lived like an actress. During the day, she was the sensible daughter-in-law, and at night, behind a closed door, she planned her own future. That calm routine was shattered by a single phone call. She was at work when her mother called, voice trembling with tears. "Olivia, your dad. He fell at the construction site. His leg's broken. He's in the hospital. The doctor said he needs surgery right away or he might lose the leg." Olivia felt the world spin but forced herself to stay calm. "Mom, don't panic. Tell me which hospital. I'm on my way. When she arrived and saw her father lying in the hospital bed, pale and drenched in sweat, she couldn't hold back her tears. The doctor told her the surgery would be complicated, and including rehabilitation afterward, the total would be at least $20,000. After years of saving desperately, Olivia had barely scraped together $10,000. Even with her parents' savings, they were still far short. That night at home, Olivia lowered herself for the first time and gently asked Benjamin, "Ben, my dad's surgery is short $10,000. Could you lend it to me?" She deliberately emphasized the word lend. Benjamin frowned immediately. $10,000. That's a lot. Liv, it's not that I don't want to help. My allowance, my mom controls every penny. I don't have that kind of money. Then could you ask your mom? Olivia forced the words out. Asking Margaret felt worse than swallowing glass, but for her father's leg, she had no choice. My mom? Benjamin reacted like he'd been stepped on. Liv, are you crazy? If she finds out, she'll definitely go off again. She already doesn't like the fact that your parents are blue-collar workers. Benjamin! That's my dad. He's lying in the hospital waiting for money that could save his leg. Startled, Benjamin finally stammered, Okay, I'll ask. But I can't promise anything. The result was predictable. Benjamin spent half an hour in the study making the call. When he came out, his head was hanging. Liv, Mom said, our family just invested in a big project, so cash is tight. And she said, it's your family's issue. It wouldn't be appropriate for the Ford family to pay. Not appropriate? Olivia let out a laugh, tears spilling over. Benjamin, I finally understand you people. She slammed the door on her way out and spent the whole night calling old classmates and friends. Piece by piece, she managed to gather enough for the surgery. The operation went well. Olivia took a few days off to stay in the hospital, barely sleeping while taking care of her father. Then, unexpectedly, Margaret showed up with Benjamin, carrying a fruit basket. Oh dear, what a terrible ordeal, Margaret said warmly, her eyes scanning the room with thinly veiled curiosity. Olivia should have told us sooner. Such a big thing. Olivia ignored her. Margaret didn't mind. She chatted with Olivia's mother instead. By the way, isn't your neighborhood pretty old? I heard it might be scheduled for redevelopment. Olivia's heart jolted. She shot Margaret a wary look. Margaret continued cheerfully, as if unaware. If it gets redeveloped, that would be great. That area's compensation is supposed to be quite generous. Then Olivia wouldn't need to work so hard. Olivia's mother was honest and didn't read between the lines. She just laughed. Where would that come from? There's not even an official announcement. Margaret simply smiled and dropped the subject. But Olivia saw it, saw the calculating spark in her mother-in-law's sharp eyes. A warning bell went off in her chest. She realized Margaret's plans ran much deeper than she had thought. 04. After Olivia's father was discharged from the hospital, she stayed with her parents for a few days under the pretext of helping them recover. But in truth, her mind kept replaying what Margaret had said in the hospital. Olivia casually probed her father for more information, and only then learned the truth. Rumors about the old neighborhood being torn down had been spreading for more than half a year, but the actual plan had never been finalized. Olivia felt torn. On the one hand, she prayed the redevelopment was real. Her parents could finally get some money, ease their hardship, and she could pay off the debts she had taken on for her father's surgery. But on the other hand, if Margaret got wind of this money, she would never let it go. Olivia knew her mother-in-law far too well. Margaret was the type who wouldn't act until she saw the rabbit in the trap, but once she did, she would strike without mercy. Olivia hadn't even figured out how to handle it yet when her phone rang. It was her father, Robert Carter, his voice trembling with excitement. Olivia! Olivia! Great news! It's happening! The redevelopment plan is officially out. Olivia's heart thudded violently. Dad, slow down! What exactly happened? They posted the compensation plan. Our little apartment, based on the size, the number of registered residents, guess how much it comes to. Robert was so excited he could barely speak. $738,000. Cash compensation of $738,000, plus a replacement apartment. $738,000. Olivia's fingers shook as she gripped the phone. She had never imagined, not even once in her life, that her parents could ever receive this kind of money. Her father had worked construction his entire life. Her mother cleaned offices. Combined, they barely made enough to scrape by every month. To them, this compensation was practically astronomical. Dad, Mom. Olivia took a deep breath and forced herself to stay calm. She needed to be more clear-headed than anyone right now. This money, this news, aside from the three of us, you must not tell a single soul. Especially not Benjamin. Especially not his mother. Not one word. Do you understand? Her voice wasn't loud, but it was unwavering. Robert froze. Huh? Why? This is good news. Benjamin's family should know. He should be happy for. Dad. Olivia cut him off sharply. Do you remember when I asked them for money for your surgery? What did they say? They said it was inappropriate. In their eyes, we have never been part of their family. They guard against me like I'm a thief, so why should we not guard ourselves? Silence. Olivia knew her father, honest, simple, kind, would never instinctively understand this kind of calculation. Dad, listen to me. Olivia softened her tone. This money is your retirement. Your safety net, your future. You've seen what Margaret is like. If she finds out about this money, do you really think she'll leave it alone? She'll try everything to funnel it into her son's pocket. Robert suddenly remembered Margaret's sharp, calculating expression in the hospital and couldn't help shivering. Then what should we do? You don't need to do anything, Olivia said. Live normally. When the compensation comes in, I'll help you deposit it in the safest bank accounts and put it in the most secure investments. Treat it like it doesn't exist. And if Margaret asks you again, tell her there's no news. Nothing confirmed. After hanging up, Olivia stood on the balcony, the evening breeze chilling her skin. But her mind was crystal clear. She knew a new storm was coming, but this time she was no longer the powerless, cornered Olivia. She finally had something in her hands, a bargaining chip of her own. 05. After warning her parents, Olivia returned to her usual routine, calm, polite, obedient. She still went to work on time, still treated Margaret with respectful courtesy, and still appeared soft and gentle with Benjamin. But soon, she sensed something off in the atmosphere at home. The first change came from Benjamin. He had always been the type to come home, grab snacks, and sit in front of his games. But suddenly, he became considerate. Olivia, you're home. Tired? I poured you a glass of water. Benjamin handed her a cup with an overly eager smile. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Wow, did the sun rise in the west today? You actually poured water? Haha, come on, don't be mean. I'm just caring about you. He rubbed his hands awkwardly. By the way, how's your dad doing? When we visited last time, he seemed to be in good spirits. Olivia's mind tightened, though her face remained neutral. He's the same. The doctor said he just needs rest and time. Oh, that's good. Benjamin nodded repeatedly. Then, in an even more awkward tone. So, that old apartment your parents live in, any updates? I heard the property values in that area are rising. There it was. Olivia sneered inwardly, though she kept her expression troubled. Don't even mention it. Rising prices? It's a rundown old building. The redevelopment rumor has been floating around for years with no confirmation. My parents were hoping for a bit of luck, maybe a small payout for a new place, but it looks like that's impossible. The spark in Benjamin's eyes dimmed immediately, though he tried to hide it. Well, maybe something will come up. 2 days later, it was Margaret's turn. On the weekend, instead of barging into their apartment, she called and invited them back to the Ford family's old house for dinner. She even added, Olivia, darling, I made your favorite black bone chicken soup. You must come. The moment Olivia stepped in, Margaret practically glowed as she grabbed her hands affectionately. Olivia, sweetheart, you're losing weight. Is work too tiring? Or is Benjamin bullying you? No, Mom. Everything's fine, Olivia said smoothly. At the dinner table, Margaret kept piling food onto Olivia's plate, so much that even Benjamin was startled. Olivia, eat more. Your parents haven't been in the best health. You must take care of yourself for their sake. Margaret sighed meaningfully. Then she dropped it. Oh, by the way, I heard your parents' neighborhood might actually have progress on the redevelopment. Is that true? Olivia nearly laughed. Same mother, same son, same script. Mom, you've heard it too? Olivia widened her eyes, playing the part perfectly. I thought it was just neighborhood gossip. My parents even asked around, but the community office denied everything. They said it's all rumors spread by real estate agents to sell houses. She sighed heavily. My parents were so disappointed. They've worked their whole lives, hoping the old place could at least bring them some retirement money, but looks like they were too optimistic. Margaret's smile froze slightly. She stared at Olivia carefully, trying to detect any crack in her expression. Olivia lifted her gaze calmly, eyes full of regret and helplessness. Absolutely flawless. Margaret found no weak point. She forced a smile. Well, these things always change. Who knows? Maybe someday the policies will shift again. Dinner ended in a strangely peaceful atmosphere. On the way home, Olivia looked out the window, her lips curling into a cold smile. Margaret and Benjamin had clearly heard something, but nothing concrete. Their probing today was only the beginning. As long as they didn't know the truth, they would circle her like sharks that had smelled blood, never leaving, always waiting. 06. Margaret and Benjamin's probing didn't work, and the house returned to temporary peace. But Olivia knew this was only the calm before the storm. For this mother and son to be that concerned about her parents' demolition compensation, something big had to be brewing behind the scenes. She acted as if nothing was wrong, but secretly kept a close watch on Benjamin. Recently, Benjamin had picked up a strange habit. He would take his phone and hide himself in the study, talking for half an hour at a time, always mysterious. And he had started wearing suits much more often, claiming he had work dinners. Olivia was full of suspicion. Benjamin worked at Margaret's company in a nominal position. Where on earth would all those work dinners come from? One night, Benjamin was working in the study again. Olivia used the excuse of sending fruit and pushed the door open. Benjamin jumped, hurriedly hung up the call, and even slammed his laptop shut. Why didn't you knock? His face drained of color, and his tone was harsh. I did. You didn't hear it. Olivia set down the fruit plate. Who were you talking to? Why so nervous? No one. Just a client. Benjamin dodged her gaze and pushed her toward the door. Okay, just go. I'm busy. His reaction confirmed Olivia's suspicion. He was hiding something. The opportunity came sooner than expected. The next day, Benjamin claimed he had a 2-day business trip out of town. The moment he left, Olivia opened his laptop. There was a password, but she had memorized it long ago, Benjamin's birthday. The desktop was clean. She checked folders one by one until she found something in the recycle bin, a deleted document. She restored it. The moment she opened it, she felt ice crawl up her spine. It was a loan contract. The borrower, Benjamin. Loan amount, $3 million. And the date? It was from 6 months before their wedding. Olivia's hands began to shake. She continued searching and uncovered a pile of chat logs between Benjamin and various investment companies and financial consultants. Benjamin was not investing. He had gotten hooked on gambling. And then she found chats between Benjamin and Margaret. The messages dated back 3 years. Margaret had known about Benjamin's gambling debts from the beginning. She had been bailing him out again and again. But the hole only grew bigger. So big that even Margaret could no longer fill it. Benjamin, this is the last time. I'll cover the $3 million. You must stop. Mom, I swear I can turn it around this time. Just $1 more million. You idiot. Do you want to bankrupt the entire Ford family? Olivia scrolled down, and an entire conspiracy unfolded before her. Margaret had insisted Olivia sign that ironclad premarital property agreement because she was afraid that once Benjamin's debts were exposed, Olivia would divorce him and demand part of the Ford family assets. Then Olivia found their most recent messages. Mom, I found out Olivia's dad's place really is being demolished. The compensation seems huge. Are you sure? How much? Not sure yet, but with that area, at least several million. Mom, this is heaven sending us help. As long as Olivia hands over the money, why would she give it to you? Do you think she's stupid? She still resents me because of the prenup. Mom, she's a woman. Just coax her. Her parents are sick. She'll soften. And once the money is in, you can promise her a little share of the Ford business. Bang! Olivia slammed the laptop shut. Her whole body trembled, not from fear but from rage. She felt like the punchline of the biggest joke in the world. So all along, from dating to marriage, she had lived inside a carefully crafted scheme. To them, she was never a partner, only a tool. And now, a human ATM waiting to be squeezed dry. 07. A few days later, Benjamin returned from his business trip. Olivia behaved as if she knew nothing, still performing her role as the dutiful wife. At the end of the month, on a weekend, Margaret finally made her move. She staged everything very formally, inviting Olivia and Benjamin back to the family home for a family meeting. In the living room, Margaret sat in the central seat, her expression stern. Benjamin sat beside her with his head lowered like a child who had done something wrong. Olivia, Margaret cleared her throat. I called you here today because there's something important we need to discuss. Olivia smiled politely, expression calm. Mom, please go ahead. Benjamin. Margaret sighed as if her heart were breaking. He made a mistake in business. He was scammed. He owes some money. How much? Olivia asked lightly. Benjamin suddenly looked up, eyes full of tears. Olivia, I'm sorry. I owe $5 million. He dropped to his knees with a loud thud. Olivia, please save me. We're husband and wife. If you don't help me, those people will kill me. If something happens to me, what will you do? He clung to her legs, crying hysterically. Olivia looked down at him with nothing but disgust. This level of acting, Hollywood would beg for him. Margaret chimed in. Olivia, Benjamin has been foolish, but he truly cares about you. I know I've been strict these years, but that's because I treat you as family. Then she shifted tone. I heard your parents' demolition compensation has come through. Olivia didn't answer. She simply stared at her. Margaret felt uneasy under her gaze, but still pushed forward. Olivia, Benjamin is in danger. We're a family. You can't watch him die. Your parents won't need all that money anyway. Take it out first. Help Benjamin survive this crisis. Afraid Olivia wouldn't agree, she added another offer. As long as you provide the money, I'll change the prenup immediately. We'll add your name to Benjamin's apartment, and I'll transfer 10% of my company shares to you. The Ford family will never treat you poorly. What a beautiful lie. Olivia laughed. She gently shook Benjamin off, stood, and pulled a folder from her bag. Mom, Benjamin, she said clearly, meeting their stunned eyes. Did you really think I'm still the Olivia you can manipulate? She poured the contents of the folder onto the coffee table. Benjamin's gambling records, loan contracts, and printed chat logs between the mother and son. Their faces turned chalk white. Oh, Olivia. Margaret trembled with fury. What about me? Olivia sneered. Yes, my parents did receive $38 million from the demolition. Benjamin and Margaret's eyes lit up instantly. But Olivia pulled out another document, her voice icy. You seem to have forgotten. You were the ones who taught me to be sensible and to protect property. She threw the new document in front of Margaret. This is my parents' notarized property declaration, drafted by the best lawyer I could find. It states clearly, the $38 million belongs solely to Robert and his wife. It has nothing to do with me, my husband Benjamin, or the Ford family. Not a single cent. 08. The living room fell into a deathly silence. Margaret's face went from pale to ashen to a furious purple. She snatched up the notarized document, her fingers whitening from the force of her grip. She couldn't believe it. After a lifetime spent calculating others, she had been outplayed by the daughter-in-law she looked down on the most. Olivia, why? You dared to scheme against me. Margaret tore off her elegant facade and screamed hysterically. Scheme? Olivia laughed. Mom, you taught me this. When you shoved that prenup in my face and forced me to sign it, didn't you have the exact same attitude? I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. Oh no, actually, I'm still more decent than you. I'm protecting my parents' hard-earned money. And you? You wanted to use their life savings to fill the gambling hole your son dug for himself. Margaret trembled so hard she couldn't even form a sentence. Benjamin was stunned too. He scrambled up from the floor and rushed toward Olivia. Olivia, what do you mean? You're really gonna watch me die? I'm your husband. Husband? Olivia looked at the face that once moved her heart. Now all she felt was disgust. The moment you and your mother conspired to deceive me, when you turned my family into your personal ATM, you stopped being my husband. Let me make this clear. The $5 million in gambling debt is yours and yours alone. You'll pay it back yourself. And as for my parents' money, don't even dream of touching a single cent. With that, Olivia picked up her bag and walked out of the suffocating prison she had lived in for 3 long years, without looking back. A few days after she left, Benjamin's creditors came knocking. They were not polite people. They stormed into the Ford residence, shouting and smashing things, shattering Margaret's beloved antique vases into pieces. Margaret had no choice. To save her precious son's fingers, she was forced to sell the 2 apartments she had worked so hard to get notarized, along with her stocks and funds. Even then, it was only enough to pay off the principal. The massive interest continued to pile up, growing like a monster. Overnight, the Ford family fell from the clouds straight into the mud. Olivia filed for divorce immediately. Margaret and Benjamin tried to play dirty in court, accusing Olivia of transferring marital assets and claiming they deserved part of the $38 million. But Olivia's evidence was ironclad, far stronger than their lies. The court ruled in her favor. The divorce was granted, and Benjamin's debt was solely his personal gambling debt, unrelated to Olivia. After the divorce, Olivia used her own savings, along with a bit of borrowed seed money from her parents, to open a small bakery. Her ingredients were high quality, her skills excellent, and her shop quickly exploded in popularity. A few years later, Olivia had become a well-known local entrepreneur. Her bakery chain had spread across the entire city. She brought her parents to live with her and bought them a spacious, bright home. Her father's leg healed well, and her mother no longer had to work as a cleaner. She spent her days gardening and dancing, happier and healthier than ever. As for Benjamin and Margaret, rumor had it they were forced to sell the old family house to pay debts. The mother and son now squeezed into a shabby rental apartment. Margaret cursed Benjamin daily for ruining their family, and Benjamin resented Margaret for not giving him more money sooner, leaving him drowning in debt. The two were sick of the sight of each other, living in constant squabbles and misery. Sometimes Olivia heard updates about them from others. She would only smile faintly. She was grateful for her own clarity and decisiveness, grateful she escaped that swamp. She finally understood. For a woman, relying on anyone else is never as reliable as relying on herself. Money and dignity must be held firmly in her own hands. That is her true strength.
Thank you for watching Whispered Women's Stories. Olivia's journey reminds us that when a woman finally chooses herself, the world shifts. She rebuilt her life, her business, and her dignity, not through miracles, but through clarity and courage. Meanwhile, those who exploited her paid the price. My takeaway: a woman's greatest strength isn't sacrifice, it's refusing to be drained dry. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay for more fierce tales. See you next time.